Still launching ads and hoping for the best? Let me show you how we test, scale, and convert smarter. Take a listen to these strategies and see if you've optimized your ads around some of these tips and tricks. And if not, from those creative tweaks that double your click-through rate to targeting setups that finally unlock conversions. I'm breaking it all down in this video, guys. What's going on, gang? It's your boy Jerry the Ad Wizard coming back at you with a brand new video. And today we're going to be looking at some tips and tricks that I've been giving out to new clients to let you know the things that are moving the needle for our clients, and so that you can see and maybe piggyback off some of these ideas yourself and implement them for your business. Every day somebody tells me, oh, ads don't work anymore. But guys, it's not the platform, it is the setup. In this video, guys, we'll fix your leaks, sharpen your messaging, and finally give your ads a fighting chance. So whether you're bootstrapping or running a six-figure business, this might change the way that you look at paid media. So stick around, guys, we're gonna get into it today. So guys, by the end of the day, you will learn how to test ads properly without wasting budget. Why your ad might be great, but your landing page is killing your conversions. How to warm up your cold traffic so they're ready to buy. What targeting still works and when to go broad. And finally, some small trust-building tweaks that can boost your conversions. If you're running Meta and Instagram ads right now, these 15 tips will reduce guesswork and increase those conversions. So guys, grab your coffees and grab your hats. It's time to spin up some ad magic. Whee! Okay guys, I'm going to go through the top 15 conversion tips for your meta ads that you can utilize to gain better conversions and to optimize your conversion rate. So, tip number 1, guys, is to test simply. What do I mean by this? Well, guys, a lot of the time when we're talking to new potential clients, something that they have tried or that they do utilize themselves are known as, when they create the ads, they don't know that the default setting when you do create your ad is to create a flexible ad. Now, I've made a whole video as to why flexible ads right at the beginning are a terrible idea. Okay, I'm going to link the card in the top corner so you can watch that for yourself. But guys, right at the beginning, we need to make sure that we don't use any flexible creatives, right? Because if we group all the creatives into one ad, we don't know which creative is performing best. Now, I always say with flexible ads, it's amazing when you know exactly what is working already. So this is my first tip, guys, okay? Do not use flexible ads if you're testing different things out, different messaging, different hooks, different iterations, for example. You want to make sure that each creative is in its own ad, okay? Do not group them at the beginning into a flexible ad with all your creatives in one ad, okay? The downside to this is that you don't know which creative is working best, and ultimately, we need to have the data initially around which creative is working best so we can create new iterations, so we can double down on the things that work. And then when we know what works, we can group everything into a flexible ad and say, hey, Meta, we don't care. We know all these creatives work and we don't mind which creatives you're going to push. The thing that we really care about now is getting the lowest CPA possible. Okay, so that is where flexible ads work really, really well, is when you've already established what's working well and you want to put all of those best performing assets to one ad creative and tell Meta, hey, go and do your thing, go and find us great results. That is where flexible ads work really, really well. Okay, so step number 1, guys, do not use flexible ads as a default if you are just starting out. Okay. Tip number 1. Now, tip number 2 for you guys is to repurpose those winners. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of the time, clients will have social media platforms and then they want to run ads, okay? Well, social is a great way to test what creatives actually work, okay? When we know that a certain creative works on Instagram or TikTok, let's use that, let's repurpose that and create an ad from that, okay? We have established what the winners are in terms of the social media content. Well, let's try running that as an ad, okay? So you've established what works in your social media strategy, and now we're going to use the best performers to repurpose those and create ads out of those to see how that resonates. Okay, so this is the second tip, guys, is to look at your social media platforms and see what is working there, because you may like to try some of the content that is working well there as part of an ad. Okay, so that is my trick number 2, guys, for your optimizing conversion rates. If it resonates already, there's probably quite a high likelihood that it's going to convert as well, so worth testing this. The third trick that I would recommend as part of this creative ad strategy and ad setup is your offer positioning, okay? You know, heard me talk a lot about the power of offers. Highly recommend reading $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi as a great framework. I think in chapter 6 onwards, this is the framework that we utilize to establish some amazing offers that are so good that people can't say no to it. Okay, and this is what you want to create, is that you want to create an offer that is so good that people can't say no. It's also very important that we state that offer very, very clearly. Okay, that's what I can see sometimes when I speak to potential clients is that they have an offering around a price, for example, a heavily discounted price, and then they make the price really small and they don't mention the original price. Okay, so something that some meta studies have found that I would also highly encourage you to go and try out for yourself is they say that if you have the old price with a line through it to say, hey, this is the old price, we're now discounting this, and they show the new price, nice, big and bold, okay, people know and have that affiliation exactly, oh, this is a price discount, okay, and they're able to extract the offer very, very clearly visually and are able to understand and digest the offer very clearly. Okay, so that's my third trick, guys, is not only have a powerful offer, but make sure that it's clearly visible in your ad. As an example, if you have a price discount offer, make sure that you have the old price in the ad with a big cross through the middle to say, hey, that was the old price, and then the new price underneath it to say, hey, this is the old price, this is the new price now. Okay, people understand this. It's very, very clear to understand and to digest. So it's a great tip, guys, and there's been a lot of studies around this as well, when you have the old number and the new number, that this only aids conversion and aids transparency with what people are signing up for. So that is my third trick for this, guys. The final tip that I would suggest, guys, the offer upfront tip. But what I would suggest is using visual cues and hook with text overlays or banner overlays, okay, to push the urgency messaging, okay? Limited spots available, only 10 spots left, okay? This is highly action orientated because we position our messaging within scarcity, and then people feel like they need to sign up because if they don't, they'll be missing out. So if you use scarcity within your messaging, people are more likely to convert. And ultimately, as you're building a funnel, at the bottom of funnel, the people that are ready to take action, you want them to take action quickly, right? And not overwarm them, for example, so they go cold again. So you want them to take action quickly when they're ready, and using additional language around scarcity and urgency aids conversion, guys. There's lots and lots of studies around this as well, and I highly recommend trying this out for your business. Okay, the next category, guys, we're going to be looking at user psychology and the journey, okay? And the first point, the first tip that I would like to bring to you guys is emotional resonance matters. What do I mean by this? Well, people are 20 times more likely, this is a quote from Dan Priestley's book, Oversubscribed. I'm going to throw it up on the screen so you see what the cover looks like. A very, very good book. Within this, Dan Priestley says, and he's very, very deep into business psychology, but that people 20 times more likely to do business with a person than they are with a business. Okay, so if you're thinking, hey, we want to build like an umbrella brand, right? We have a personal brand so that all of these brands sit underneath that. One caveat that I would say to that is actually your conversions will be a lot stronger if you continue to use the personal brand and not utilize umbrella brands. And I'll give you an example. If you look at the follower numbers of a profile like Jeff Bezos, people are way more likely to follow Jeff Bezos as the CEO of Amazon than they are following the page of Amazon itself. It's a faceless corporation. So be careful when you want to put things under the same umbrella that you're not taking away the emotional resonance of something like a personal brand, okay? People do business with people. People like to do business with people. And they're 20 times more likely to do business with a person that they can see and understand and resonate with than a corporation that is fairly faceless, right? So this is another tip and trick, guys, is to understand emotional resonance. Use real life people in your ads, okay? So people build up that connection. If there's a personal brand involved, this is really, really strong. But even if you don't, make sure you use UGC and other testimonial-based content and content from the CEO themselves, for example, to tell that story, okay? People like doing business with people, guys. And when people do business with people, there's a deeper emotional resonance to that, more likely to do business with you. My fifth trick, guys, is to warm up first. And what I mean by that is sometimes we utilize Instagram profiles as landing pages. It'll work really, really nicely if we drive cold traffic to an Instagram page that is geared up as a landing page with a call to action and everything else. This works really, really well. But one thing that we need to remember is that people won't follow an empty Instagram profile. Okay, so when I say warm up first, what I mean by that is that we need to build up the profiles so that when people do land on that Instagram profile, they know what kind of content, what kind of messaging, and what kind of values and personality you have as a brand. Okay, you want to put a lot of content on there first, so then when people do come and check out your Instagram profile, it's not an empty profile. Our results say across many industries, if you run a traffic campaign to your Instagram profile when there is little to no content on there, The cost per follow is massive, okay? It really reduces the more content you have on there. So this is what I mean by warm up first, is that if you are planning to use an Instagram profile as a landing page, do not send people to an empty Instagram profile, okay? Build up the content first. Let people know what to expect and who you are as a brand or as a business or a person, so that when they do come and follow you, they know exactly what to expect, okay? So that's my next tip, guys, is to not send traffic to an empty Instagram profile. My next tip, guys, is to leverage existing followers. If you have already built up a platform and you're thinking, hey, I want to start a new business, or I want to utilize or leverage the audience that I've built already, one tip or trick that you might want to consider is, if the audience has already been built up somewhere, to rebrand that profile within your new branding. Okay, if you have built up an audience around some of those values that your brand and business is going to be tapping into, and you have cultivated an audience already, you don't need to start from scratch. Okay, you can utilize a platform that you've already built up, rebrand it if people are happy to do that, and then you've already got an established audience, okay, that you can then go and push your offers and your business to. So that's my next tip, guys. If you've already built up a profile and you're thinking, hey, do I start a new profile, or should I leverage what I've already got? Guys, don't start off from scratch, okay? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can utilize the profiles that you've already built up, rebrand them to your new branding, and then continue building the audience that has already been cultivated. Now, my final tip, guys, for this, okay, for mapping out user journeys, is to build middle of funnel trust content. Okay, what I mean by this is, if somebody submits their lead details and they've booked a call, for example, what you want to do in the lead up to the call is feed them middle of funnel trust content that handles their objections. Okay, if there's any objections as to why somebody might not want to use your business, your brand, or your service, you want to create content that handles those objections. And what we utilize quite often is something like a reach campaign to keep people on platform, but to educate them on these objections on platform. Okay, so when somebody's logging on to Meta or Instagram, and there might be some reservation as to signing up, maybe they've booked a call and they're still not quite sure, and they're in the consideration stage, and you want to nudge them further towards the decision-making stage, that you handle the objections before the call. So when they get to the call, the high intent, a lot of their questions have been answered already, and then the call can just facilitate the onboarding process, right? What else do you need to know, and how can we get you signed up today? And if somebody attends the call and they have been exposed to these touch points, they're way more likely to convert, way more likely. The call then isn't utilized for objection handling, asking questions, etc. What we're doing there instead is that we're just onboarding people, because we've already educated them in the lead up to the call, okay? And you can do this as you map out your customer journeys, okay? You can see, hey, what are some objections that somebody might have to signing up here? And where can we answer this within content, okay? Within our social media content, and then pushing it via ads to ensure that everybody sees the touch point that signs up, okay? So that is my next trick, guys. But before we go anywhere else and you're new here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss any more important updates. We are here many times a week to help business owners, online advertisers, and digital marketeers get the best from their online advertising, paid media, and digital marketing strategies. But without further ado, let's get on with the video, bro. Woo. Okay, guys, now we're moving on to the next section, okay, which is about targeting, budget, and learning phase. Now, I got lots and lots of tips and tricks for this that might help you out. So, guys, first tip I have for you is to target high-income segments if your customer persona is of high income, okay? I have a whole video as to how you can target high-wealthy individuals in the USA. Okay, I'm going to stick the card in the top corner so you can check that video out, because I go through lots of tips and tricks into how you can target high-income households. But if you know that your customer lives in a high-income household, then it's important that we target those people, okay? And like I said, I have tips and tricks on how to do that. I'm going to stick the card in the top right corner. If this is for your customer persona and you want to do this, I highly recommend watching that video and utilizing the tips and tricks there. If you have premium services that you want to target high-income households for, there are tips and tricks to do this, guys, and I'll link the card in the top corner so you know how to do this yourself. The next tip I have on this category, guys, is to build signals first. Okay, pretty simple, but what does that mean? What it means is that you want to run low budget campaigns first to test the water and to gain signals, okay? Don't start running away and start paying 50, 100, $150 per ad set on a campaign when you don't know what's going to work, right? Test small first and then double down on the things that are working, okay? And we can use a little bit of budget to test what happens and to understand the signaling and to know what we need to double down into, right? So group your ad sets by different topics or different categories or different types of content, for example. And the idea here, guys, is that we want to try and maximize and get to 50 conversions per ad set. If we get to 50 plus conversions in an ad set, it successfully exits the learning phase, which means it's going to get us even better CPAs, okay? But we need to try and get to 50 conversions as best as possible per ad set. Okay, and once we get to that 50 conversions, we exit the learning phase. So some people don't know that, but we need to try and get as many conversions as possible per ad set. Okay, and once we do get 50 plus conversions, then we know the meta is going to optimize it really, really well. So that's what we need to try and gear up towards, guys, is that we need to say, right, what is our CPA? How much do we need to pay to get 50 of those conversions? And then that's what we want to set our ad set spend limit to within that first 5 to 7 days. Okay, so it successfully exits the learning phase. Now, this is if you know what's already working, okay? But this point here, build signal first, is to test the waters a little bit. Once you know what works, okay, what creatives are working best, and you say, right, okay, now let's try and get 50 plus conversions on this ad set or these creatives, okay? So that is my next point, guys, on optimizing your conversion rates. The next step, guys, is to enable audience expansion. And what I mean by that is at the audience section of your ad manager, if you put in really tight restrictions on your audience targeting and you don't tick the button that says expand this audience targeting if it gives us better results, okay, you're restricting Meta to only look for results in the specified targeting that you've given it, right? So, for example, parents and children who attend high school as a very niche targeting. If you don't tick that expand audience network section on, it doesn't give Meta the permission to go and find results outside of that targeting if it feels like there are results to be had. And a lot of times we want to give Meta that permission because it knows a lot more about audience insights and audience signals than we have, right? So if we have certain understanding of the audience, we can set in those parameters and say, hey, here's some examples of where our audience is. However, we want to make sure that we tick expand audience on if we want to say to Meta, hey, go and find us results outside of this parameter as well, if the results are going to be there. I would not suggest this. At bottom of funnel, you want to be hyper specific to targeting your audience, the people who are ready to take action within your audience. You need to make sure that you don't have this switched on, because at that point, you're targeting highly relevant offers that are only highly relevant to your audience that you've built up and create those touch points for. If somebody else sees that ad, they're not really going to convert, right? So to take audience expansion across all levels of the funnel is also the wrong move. But what you want to do at top of funnel and maybe like middle of funnel is to ensure that this is turned on so that Meta can go and find us other great results as well. So that's my next tip for you guys. And my final tip on this particular second, guys, is to go broad later. What do I mean by that? Well, if your ad account has had data and is slightly more mature, okay, e.g., you haven't just set up your ad account and it has no data in it, you do not want to go broad early. Okay, you want to set in those targeting parameters to say, hey, Meta, this is the type of audience that we are trying to target. Meta then gains some of that data, some of that understanding. The ad account gets more primed with more data. But then, guys, once your ad account is slightly more mature, 2-3 months old with 50 plus conversion data in there already, and you've gained some of that conversion data, what I would recommend, highly recommend, is to switch your audience targeting rather than specifying certain interests or criteria, to just turn all that off, to put Advantage Plus audience on with no interests, okay, completely broad. Okay, it's known as broad targeting. The reason that we do that is because, like I said, Meta knows a hell of a lot more about the user data and their audiences than we do, right? So tinkering with the controls and telling Meta where to go is the wrong move. It's a lot more, guys, about the inputs and outputs needed to train that ad AI than it is us tinkering with the controls and telling the ad AI where to go. So that's really, really key takeaway, guys, is to when your ad account is old enough and when you say, hey, how old is that? Well, if you've been running ads consistently for 2-3 months, then I would say that your ad account is slightly more mature than a brand new ad account, and it would be worth testing something like broad, A/B testing it against your interests. So you have one ad set with lots of interest targeting and one ad set as broad, and map out and see the differences between the results of this, guys, because broad for us is king right now. If your old ad account is slightly older, Meta goes and does the work for us much better than we can tell Meta where to go. So this is my final tip of this particular category, is to make sure that you are utilizing broad targeting, to utilizing Meta signals and Meta's data and give Meta the permission to go and find us results without us restricting it within our targeting. Now, guys, my final tips and tricks for you is about landing page optimization. What is the concern about landing pages? Well, you want to make sure that not just your ad is super optimized, but the landing page that people are clicking through to are also optimized. Okay, and I'm going to go through some tips and tricks now. The first one is face match equals trust. If we see a face, a UGC face on an ad, your conversion rate will be higher if you show that face on the landing page, okay, very early on. What I mean by that is when somebody clicks on a UGC ad and the landing page they're led to also has that person's face, this increases conversion. It tightens up the ad journey. People click on an ad, they see then the ad that they've clicked on, the face of the person there on the landing page. They know, hey, this is a seamless experience. This goes from there to there, and I'm more likely to convert it. It plays into the psychology, guys. And people see a face on an ad and then they see that exact same face on the landing page. It tightens the resonation of the ad journey and means that people are more likely to convert. Okay, so test this, guys. If you're using UGC, okay, make sure that you have those UGC creators' faces on your landing page very early on, because that instant recognition the user that this is a seamless ad journey and they're more likely to convert. So that's my number one trick for landing page optimization. The next tip that I'd like to give is that intro and objection videos boost conversions. Like I mentioned about objection videos, you want to have objection videos that handles any objections so that by the time they're kind of coming to sign up to your call, they already know exactly what they're signing up to and all the objections have been handled. However, what I'd also suggest is making a nice intro video, okay? When they see your face, if you're, for example, a coach or somebody of influence, when they see an introduction to you, they're introduced. Feel like this introduction is for them. What this will do is it will reduce no-shows if you're looking to book calls or wanting to leads to book calls with you, and increases the conversion rate of the calls that happen, right? Because people build up resonation. People build up affiliation to the face that they're seeing and the person that they're doing business with. So really, really important, guys, to test out an introduction video. If you want people to come and follow your Instagram page or come visit your website, have an intro video. Hey, this is me. This is what I value. This is what I stand for. This is my business. Come and join me on this journey of discovering or learning, whatever it might be, guys, okay? The face of the business, and you create an intro video as well as objection videos to get people familiar with your face so they're more likely to do business with you. Like I said, people are 20 times more likely to do business with a person than they are with a business or brand. So that's something to bear in mind, guys. The final tip and trick that I want to give to you guys is brand authority via reach. What I mean by this is shout out to Mr. Ben Heath for his omnipresent strategy techniques. But what we utilize is also Ben Heath's omnipresent strategy. We create touch points using a reach campaign and building brand authority to create touch points on platform. What I mean by this is if, for example, you have gained a news publication creating an article about you, or a publication that has incredible brand leverage. So, for example, the BBC writes a news article about you, saying how great you are, the amazing stuff that you're doing with your business, all these kind of things. What we want to do is map out the user journey to ensure this messaging gets sprinkled along the omnipresent strategies. So the touch points that people are experiencing as they're getting warmed up to your business, we're utilizing the leverage of the other publication brands and giving your brand leverage through them. Now, if BBC writes an article about myself, I want to make sure that when somebody logs on to Instagram or Facebook, that as they're scrolling through, we're creating something like a reach campaign, which isn't geared around somebody clicking on the article. All we want to do is for them to be exposed to the messaging. As they're flicking through, we have an ad that has that news publication that says, hey, look how great Jerry is. And then what people do is they have the perception of, the BBC is writing about Jerry. In their mind, the brand credibility of the BBC is already given to myself. Even if I'm a really small brand, really small creator, if a big publication house has written about you, to make sure that that messaging gets seen by your audience, because this builds brand credibility very quickly and very easily, because it leverages the brand of the publisher themselves, okay? People say, BBC, highly credible, therefore, if they're writing about Jerry, he must also be highly credible, right? So we're utilizing the brand leverage that we get from BBC, and then automatically, psychologically, people are pinning that to our brand and saying it's also a powerful brand, as powerful as it is about the BBC, because the BBC is writing about them, right? So this is another thing, is to boost your brand authority using some of these articles, using a reach campaign. You're not incentivizing somebody to click on the article. All you want to do is create these touch points so that as somebody's flicking through their feed, they're seeing, The Guardian has written about Jerry and his amazing work. Oh, the BBC has written about Jerry and his amazing work. And automatically, the psychology is for the people to think, hey, he must be so, if the BBC is writing about him, he must be really, really credible. So we're borrowing the leverage of the brand credibility of the BBC and leveraging within our brands and ensuring that people see this. It really, really boosts your brand authority, brand recognition, and all those kind of nice things. So that is my last final tip and trick, guys, to utilize a reach campaign with some of these brand authority pieces so that people are exposed to those touch points, okay? And it builds your brand authority, guys. So because it only aids conversion. People like to do business with successful people, right? So if they see, for example, that BBC has written about you, then they want to do business with those people because they are the established, credible sources. So that's my final tip and trick, guys. Hit me a comment down below if you got any questions. Guys, I'm not really quite sure what the AdWizard team is building yet, but if you want to get involved and you'd like to join the waitlist to see what the AdWizard team has coming up next, click the link down below. We've got a waitlist, guys. You can join and register your signaled interest in the waitlist to get signed up and get exclusive access to what the AdWizard team is planning up next. So click the link below, guys, and join the waitlist today. That's it for today, guys. Hopefully now you have a good understanding as to things that you can try and tips and tricks that you can use within your meta ads to increase your conversion and optimize your funnels, okay, to get more conversions for the bottom line of your business. Hit me a comment down below if you got any questions. I'm your boy, Jerry the AdWizard. Thank you so much for watching and all of the support. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. If you want to know exactly how we run creative sprints within our Meta Performance Creatives, there is a step-by-step process that we follow on a weekly basis called the Creative Sprint Process. So if you're looking to double down on the things that are working, guys, click this video over here. I'll go through a step-by-step process exactly so you can see exactly what we do. I'm your boy, Jerry the AdWizard. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jerry AdWizard, on TikTok at Jerry Dreadlocks, and Jerry Griffiths on LinkedIn. Okay, I'm your boy, Jerry the AdWizard. And wherever you are in the world, I bid you peace and love and a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.